right, so the deed is done. I've done all the research I'm comfortable doing at this point, and I have sent out the loosest idea of, hey, can I give you a pitch for my video to make a movie together, to loose mutual connections that we have. So I think things that I'm battling here right now are a lack of experience, and I need to be given a pretty big show of faith and opportunity to overcome that inexperience. Because if I had 10 films and I reach out to people and they say, holy crap, look at all this stuff you've already made, that's easy. But just having one short film and a handful of commercial work, it's not the strongest position I could possibly be in. Now, luckily, we're in a market where I feel that this is going to be her opportunity to say, do I want a documentary made about myself right now or not? Because I don't think anybody else is coming her way to help her. And I struggle because I feel very strongly that women need to become film storytellers. I feel very strongly about that. And there's some things that I can do to help with that. But at the same time, we also have a runway here, and we can't go from barely any women in film to women directors in no time at all. It's going to take time. And so I'm not going to wait around for the perfect woman director to come along and take this story. I don't think that's what needs to happen. I think that I need to do my best with the tools that I have to tell the story that is a women-centered story. I feel that the way for me to actually get around the fact that I'm not a woman and I'm going to be directing and editing this film is by asking as many questions as I can and doing lots of research. Those things are important to me. They're important on every film, but especially in a film here where I'm coming into the food space, which I'm not super familiar with, domestic violence, which I'm not super familiar with, and advocacy and allyship and all of those things I'm also not super familiar with. So I need to do my research. I need to, and this is more research than I've already done, I need to do my research. I need to learn about survivorship and what does the end stages of that look like? What does it look like to be in a challenging relationship where there's violence? What resources are the most helpful? What things are working in our community now? What things do we need to do? All of that research is going to come once I have a person who's on board and is even willing to talk anything about domestic violence and survivorship, because that's not something that I can request of somebody else. They have to decide that sharing that is going to be worth the additional trauma that it will be to go on camera and talk about it again. And as of right now, I am not qualified to run that interview. I'm just simply not. I don't have the emotional fortitude to be able to take whatever she would throw my way in a conversation like that. I will get overwhelmed. I will fall apart. I will feel helpless and frustrated because I can't make her feel better in that moment, and I can't do anything about it. She's just going through this suffering to make my fucking film. So that's going to be hard for me. And then the other part that will be challenging is just like knowing what questions to ask. Like, I feel that I have the ability to follow my natural curiosity as somebody who is coming newly to a lot of these topics. So that's good. That's a great place to start, but that only will get us so far. I finished writing a message to one of the mutual connections first and ended up sending that first. And then I was like, well, you've got to send the main email now, and you've got to message her on Instagram right now, because if this person reaches out to her and says, hey, Ethan's trying to get contact with you, and she says, what do you mean? What are you talking about? That would be terrible. So I kind of just put myself in a rut and had to do it. I didn't have anybody proofread my short couple sentences about my project. I just went for it. So what I ended up sending her was just the idea that, hey, I'm Ethan, I'm a local filmmaker and, commercial production company. Here's a link to my website. I have an idea for a short documentary film with you. I would like the chance to meet with you on Zoom or in person and talk for 20 minutes about my pitch. It's centered around your career and your experience with activism. I didn't say your experience with domestic violence. I said your experience with activism, because ultimately that's what I'm the most interested in. Her story and how she's dealt with things, I think, is powerful, and I would like the opportunity to tell that in a way that's meaningful to her and other people in that community. But ultimately, I will skip over that if it means we have the opportunity to talk about what she's trying to do now that she's a survivor. And so then I said, here's a link to my short film. It's not available to the public, kind of get a little exclusive thing that's special to you. Here it is. And I didn't really tell her, I didn't give a call to action of what to do. Hopefully she just responds. And I did also give her my cell phone number, because however you want to interact with me, that's the communication method that we will use. Maybe that's through Instagram stories. So yeah, I think another interesting thing about the pitch that I have is that I have taken a big swing on a visual intrigue piece and a title and, even a little bit of the branding of the film. I'm not married to this idea. I do think it's a really good idea. I can see where she'll be completely not interested in it because it is a little superhero-y, which is not everybody's favorite thing, and I get that. I just think it was really important to take a big swing with that piece and let her know, hey, this is something that we could do. Maybe she hates it, but at least she knows, hey, this guy came to me with something that we could do and didn't just come to me and say, yeah, let's throw something together. It'll take a couple weekends, but we'll be done in no time. That's not my personality at all. I don't think that's a way to make a successful film. I think having a solid pitch from top to bottom and sending that to her and presenting that to her is the way to go. Now, I do have a third contact who can reach out to her when if I don't get a response in the next couple of weeks here, but I do want to be respectful and give her some space to consider what this might mean. I was very clear in my pitch that her activism is part of this project for me, and so I think that's definitely something that makes it a little harder to sit down and have the conversation of, but I would definitely rather sit down with her where she knows that that's something that's important to this project for me, instead of showing up thinking that we're just going to do a little popcorn piece about her account and stuff, and then have me say, oh yeah, and by the way, I want to try and teach people some stuff about sexual violence and violence from partners. So definitely want to give time for that. And I'm also dealing with the fact that I don't even know if she's seen it, right? I don't know if she's aware of what I shared. Part of the reason why I did reach out to those people is because that makes it a little bit easier for me to swallow the fact that, hey, she is going to see this. It's just a matter of if it matters to her. And I obviously want it to matter quite a bit, but that's not a decision that I necessarily need to make. And you can't be halfway in to a documentary like this. With the budget that we have, with the story that I have, I need her to be really, really, really committed. And a lot of the things that I've been imagining have included her being very, very, very committed. And I think that's fine, but I would have to seriously rethink the project if she was only willing to say, hey, I'm going to do 2 interviews. We're not talking about my domestic situation. That would be tough. That would be a different documentary than the one I have in mind right now. But going back to my deficiencies, I hope that, from 30-year-old to 30-year-old, we're at a time in our life where it's like we've been holding ourselves back. And I feel like my journey of being 30 is realizing that no one needs to give me permission to do anything, A. And B, if I want to do something, I'm the one who's got to do it. And my motto for now until I come up with a better one is filmmakers finish films, because I've felt like an artist my entire life. I've not felt like a sports person. I have not felt like an educator, honestly. I've not felt like a career person. The core of my life has been entertainment and art for a very long time. And throughout high school, throughout college, throughout my early and later 20s, I had excuses as to why I couldn't make videos, which was my chosen art form, and they were all stupid. And I wish that I would have found a way to. I mean, part of it is pushing past the technical limitations. I didn't feel like I had a laptop that had the power to edit stuff, and then I finally did, and I didn't like my camera. I always had an excuse, and it was always technical. And it's very silly, but owning my own equipment now takes that off the table and makes me say, okay, there's commercial jobs that you can do, go get them. You can do them. You're qualified. You have the experience and the equipment to do it. And same thing with documentary. I know that I am technically capable of making the film that's in my head right now. I know it. And so the only thing that's stopping me from doing that is the soft skills of being able to present a solid pitch to a subject. And so I'm learning how to do that now. And, I have a plan for how to have this conversation if I get that opportunity. But if I don't, there's another plan, and it involves another person who I think is interesting. I can think of reasons why he may not want to work on projects too, and part of that is my own self-doubt creeping in and saying, you can't do it, stop trying, you're never going to make it, those things. But another part of it is I think the type of character that I'm attracted to is not the person who's instantly going to say, I want to be on film. And unfortunately, that charges me up quite a bit more to try and get them on film, because I'm attracted to their story, and I can't change that. That is something that is true about me and here, and so I think that's a good thing. But figuring out how to actually convince, and not even convince characters, but give them a path forward to the project that they're happy to walk down, right? I don't want to push and badger someone so much that they just say yes, so I leave them alone, unless they're an antagonistic character or somebody who I disagree with on a moral basis, and then get a few months or weeks into the production and say, I can't do this anymore, and me knowing in my heart that it's my fault because I pushed them into something that they clearly weren't comfortable doing, and tricked myself into believing that I could rely on them to finish out this project. And I would much rather have someone say no right now with the amount of work that I've put in right now than say no after we've shot some stuff. Because there's a huge part in this process where we have invested way more time than we have right now, maybe done some days with rental equipment, spent some of our budget, those kinds of things, and we don't have a project yet. We don't have a complete story. And so if the project falls apart at that point, that's really awful. And I just believe with the amount of preparation that I do, with the levels of anxiety that I operate my life with, I won't be able to get to the end of the project and say, oh shoot, we don't have anything. Because as the full creative on these projects, everything I do, I see it at the end goal. I'm thinking about the Cinema Center premiere when I write down how many shoot days we need. And that's a unique thing. It is kind of a producer's thing to be thinking about all the different departments and how they're going to work together. Because, directors are in charge of a ton of stuff, but they also offload a ton of the logistics to producers. And so when I'm solo creating these projects, I am every piece of the puzzle. And there's few tiny little pieces that I'm comfortable offloading with enough finances. And other than that, everything's me. What's the worst that could happen is she could say, I don't like you and I don't like your idea. But at least if I have a me and an idea, there's a chance she might like one of them a certain amount and then be willing to enjoy the other. I'd originally thought about telling her that she was a producer on the documentary, but I don't want to do that because of her inexperience in the genre. And that's pretty rich coming from me and my inexperience in the genre, but I would hate to have a 50-50 relationship with somebody who has no experience in this sort of filmmaking. She is a content creator at best. I'm sorry, but the longest thing you've edited is an hour-long podcast conversation, and I don't know that you edited it, and that's fine. But no, I want her to be a collaborator. I want her to be heard. I want to tell the story that she is most interested in telling. Those are all things that I want, but I even thought about it and I was like, I have to have creative control of this project because I have to put my name on it at the end of the day. And her as a subject and not a producer, her name is on it, but as a subject. And she is getting viewed through my eyes, and it's just how it is. And so if that's something that our visions end up not lining up, that can be okay because we will go with the person who's editing the film and directing the film's vision at the end. But I would really like to feel like we're on the same page. And yeah, I have a couple doomsday scenarios in my head, as I always do, about ways that the story could just kind of get stuck and not progress. And I think all of those ways are still compelling stories, but they're not going to be as flattering of stories than the heroic story that I'm pitching and that I think is the best one and that I want to give to her. So yeah, it's an interesting spot right now, and I'm really glad that I was able to sit down and film this when I don't know what's going to happen next, because I don't know what's going to happen next, and that's part of the fun.